Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had some chicks, E-I-E-I-O. With a cluck,
with a little DACA here and a little DACA there, here a DAC, everywhere
and when those chicks got out of line, chicken fricassee. With a cluck, cluck here and a cluck, cluck there, loud as they could be.
Welcome to the Savage Nation, the home of borders, language, and culture. Well, we elected Donald Trump. We wanted firm borders. We wanted English as the official language. And we wanted the American culture reinforced as the American culture. And we wake up and there he is having dinner with old corned beef Schumer. Nancy Pelosi had been assigned to the dustbin of history. Her own party wanted her out. Her own party said get rid of her. Her own party said she's horrendous. Her own party said she's out of touch with reality. And now she's been saved by Don. Old MacDonald did it. He made Nancy Pelosi relevant again. So you have to ask yourself two questions, maybe three, maybe four. If the election were held today, would you vote for Donald Trump again is one question. Now, I have a solution for the DACA compromise, and there's going to be a compromise as sure as I'm sitting here. Remember that 50% of the country did not vote for Republicans. To make it easy for us, without quibbling over numbers, just assume that the voter base is 50-50. 50-50, and the other side hates Donald Trump and hates us. And there has to be a compromise in every deal. Everything in life is a compromise, whether it is a business deal, a political deal, a marriage deal, a friendship deal. No one gets 100% unless they're a dictator. And as I've always said, a bird needs two wings to fly. Unfortunately, this country's been flying to the left for so long that I think even Donald Trump has forgotten that the right wing has been tied to the bird's body. So if DACA considerations are the deal maker for a wall, and for tougher immigrant rules, and for tax breaks, okay, that's what's going to happen. But I have a solution. You're never going to deport 800,000 or 1 million illegal alien children. Never. It's not going to happen. It just won't happen. There'll be riots in every city in the country. So there is a solution. And unfortunately, Donald Trump doesn't listen to the Savage Nation. He listens to radio shows that have no audience, hosts that have no audience, and TV shows that have 1/50th the audience of this show. But I'll say it anyway. Here is the solution, Donald Trump. Maybe one of your esteemed assistants will send this to you. Do not deport those on DACA, where there's a 40 to 50% swindle rate, by the way, according to people in the government. 40 to 50% of them are not even students. You don't deport them. You cut funding for all DACA programs. You eliminate all funding for all DACA programs. And let these illegal children fend for themselves as we did. And as all American children fend for themselves without help, make them fend for themselves. In addition, as part of my solution, President Trump, you deport all illegal alien prisoners to compensate. That's an issue that I've talked about not only in Trump's War, but in other books I have written. You begin by deporting illegal alien prisoners. You get rid of them. Now, how many people are in our prisons? This is a very important conversation that we're about to have on the Savage Nation. I know many of you depend upon me for ideas, and sometimes I joke around, but most of the time I try to back up my ideas with facts. So here's some facts. How many people are in prisons in the United States of America? Per capita, higher than any nation in the world. We have 2.3 million people in 1,719 state prisons, 102 federal prisons, 901 juvie correctional facilities, 3,163 local jails, 76 Indian County jails, and in addition to that, you have military prisons, immigration detention facilities, civil commitment centers, and prisons in the U.S. territories. But roughly, there are 2.3 million people in all of these prisons. How many of them are illegal aliens? We don't know. Do you know why? This is a shocker that no one's ever told you before. But here on the Savage Nation, we try to give you the most important facts that we can find. 2.3 million in prisons. How many of them are in state prisons where there's no cooperation with federal authorities? Of the 2.3 million in jails or prisons around the country, 1.3 million, an astonishing amount, are in state prisons. And here's the rub. Here's the rub. The state prisons will not cooperate with the federal government and give up their immigration status. And so, therefore, the Department of Justice and DHS cannot collect data regarding the immigration status of convicted aliens incarcerated in state prisons and local detention centers throughout the United States. And neither the Department of Justice nor DHS can independently collect this data without the assistance of the state prisons. So I would say to Schumer, since you love illegal aliens so much, we're going to do a deal with you, Chuck. We're going to deport all illegal aliens in all prisons throughout the United States. The last I checked, between 25 and 30% of all prisoners are illegal aliens, meaning they're not citizens. Not citizens. So if the number is roughly 2.3 million people, take approximately, make it 25%. Go on the low side. What's 25% of 2 million people? 500,000. Is that right? 500,11520, right? So make it a little higher. Maybe 600,000 of all the prisoners are illegal aliens. They're not citizens, and I'm sick and tired of spending $30,000 to $60,000 a year on them. With ethnic meals, with counseling, with translators, with medical care that's through the roof. 30% of 2.3 million, or 25% of 2.3 million, Mr. Trump, would be 600,000 or so prisoners who can be immediately deported from the United States of America. And oddly, the number of 600,000 to 700,000 illegal aliens in prisons is very close to the estimated 800,000 DACA students, if you want to call them that. So if you're going to keep the 800,000, then you get rid of the 700,000, and we cut a deal on that. Tell Schumer that's the deal. Tell Pelosi that's the deal, and make them explain to American people why they're in love with illegal alien prisoners. Make that liar from Pacific Heights tell America not how wonderful they are, but that they're all criminals and she loves them. Why does she love them? Have you figured out why she loves them? Have you figured out why Schumer and the Democrats won't let go of the illegal aliens in prison? Well, let's do the math. Let's go to the DACA. How much is each DACA kid worth to HHS? Maybe $100,000 a year or more? So let's do $100,000 per DACA kid times 800,000. What does that turn out to be annually? Do the math. Do the math. 100,000 times 800,000 is how much? You can figure that out. Now you know why Schumer and Pelosi won't let go of him. Are you kidding me? You think it's about compassion? It was always about the money. It's always the money. It's always followed the money. The entire Democrat machine is supported by the illegal alien situation. DACA. DACA, DACA, DACA. If you go to my website, michaelsavage.com, maybe you don't want to hear any of this. It's too much for you. It's not too much for me. We have a whole thing on this DACA thing that I want you to see. And we hear that Trump is fairly close to a DACA deal. What's the deal? What do you mean deal? What kind of deal is this? The art of the schlemiel is what it looks like, not the art of the deal. He got rolled by Pelosi and rolled by Schumer. That's no deal. That's the art of the schlemiel, Donald. He's supposed to be a tough businessman. What are we getting out of the deal? Nothing. Nothing, nada, garnished. Nothing, zero. So what's the solution? What is the solution? I gave you a solution. I'll give it again. Maybe you didn't hear it on the Savage Nation. You don't want to deport the 800,000 DACA kids, if you want to call them that, just for the sake of discussion. The sacred DACA kids. Your kids, nothing. Your kids, garbage. But they're sacred. They're all wonderful future Americans. Every one of them is an Einstein, a brain surgeon, a NASA astronaut, the next Boeing. Every one of them is a genius in the bud. So we're not going to deport them, Nancy. We're going to keep the 800,000 wonderful, wonderful kids that you're in love with. You can wash their feet. Every one of them can be brought to your house to have their feet washed because you love washing the feet of illegal aliens, which you've done in the past to show how wonderful and warm you are. So we're not going to deport them. But we're cutting the funding for all DACA programs. Every college, every community college, every state college is going to have all the funding cut for DACA programs across America, and these wonderful kids who were such great future Americans will have to fend for themselves, as I did as an immigrant son, and as others in America do who don't come from families and don't get government support. Zero funding. That's number one. And number two, Charlie Schumer, we're deporting 30% of all the prisoners in America who are illegal aliens. 30% of 2.3 million. 30% of 2.3 million is approximately 700,000 illegal aliens. We're going to start the buses rolling, and we're starting them the day that we accept DACA. There's the deal. That's the art of the deal, Mr. Trump. That's not the art of the schlemiel. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Plan for DACA. People want to see that happen. You have 800,000 young people brought here, no fault of their own. So we're working on a plan. We'll see how it works out. But we're going to get massive border security as part of that. And I think something can happen. We'll see what happens.
Well, we keep hearing the big lie. They were brought here no fault of their own. They're all future astronauts and brain surgeons. What do you mean no fault of their own? If the parents committed a crime by bringing them here illegally, let's start from the top. These are not anchor babies. That's another problem that no one's talking about. So on top of the 1 million, let's say 800,000, that's like saying there's 11 million illegal aliens. For 10 years, they've been saying there's 11 million illegal aliens. We know the number, by my estimates, of 30 to 40 million at least. 11 million over and over again. Blue Flitz, 11 million, 11 million, 11 million. Not 11 million, 40 million illegals. Maybe 100 million. Now you have anchor babies. A total crazy thing. A totally crazy thing. Canada stopped it. Canada stopped it because the country was about to become another country. There was a Chinese-Canadian member of parliament in Canada who saw that the Chinese women were coming in their 9th month of pregnancy and delivering on the airplane or the minute they hit Canada. And he said, well, this has to stop. Socialist Canada ended the anchor baby trick, the loophole. But we can't do it. Why? Because there's so much money involved in this area of illegal immigration. That's why the Koch brothers, for example, are in favor of DACA being given citizenship. I told you this. I disclosed it to you over a year ago. Yes, the very powerful, quote, right-wing Koch brothers are invested very deeply in homes, group homes for the illegal aliens, the DACAs. I don't think you know any of this. There's so much money involved. So anyway, so we get back to the DACA deal. War will come later. So someone emails me and says, wait a minute, you're going to deport illegals who are in prison as part of the trade-off, and they're going to be freed right onto our streets with the border control so lax as it is. Okay, it's a good point. They're going to come right back across the border. So here's another solution. There's always an answer to a question. If you have a logical mind, and you're not Nancy Pelosi, you have a logical answer to that problem. You get, though, the illegal aliens in prisons who are the least violent, if there is such a thing. I doubt that they'd be in prison if they weren't violent. And you ask them if they'd like to volunteer to build a wall. You pay them whatever the prison wage is. And after they're through building the wall, you make sure they're building it from the Mexico side, and they wall themselves out of our country. That's not a bad idea. It's a twofer. They build a wall, and they're walled into Mexico rather than into America. They're not building it on this side. Or you keep a few openings in there for them to go to, and at the end they're on the other side, and that's the end of it. Okay? Dreamers should build a wall. Let the dreamers do something for America. What have they done for America other than feather the nests of the administrators in the colleges and feather the nests of the Democrat Party who are salivating over them like they're the next crop of Einsteins? This whole thing stinks to the highest. Trump has shocked everybody with this. He got so screwed up with this that he had to backtrack already this morning. Last night he came out of the dinner with Schumer and Pelosi. He was already glowing about the deal. Then this morning, the flack was so heavy, no wall, no deal. Here's one now. This is the second Trump. No, 01.
At some point, they're going to have to. They cannot obstruct the wall. The wall, to me, is vital. If I don't get the wall, then we will become the obstruction.
What has to come first, wall and agreement on the wall?
We have to have an understanding that whether it's in the budget or some other vehicle, in a fairly short period of time, the wall will be funded. Otherwise, we're not doing any deals.
Okay, we're not. That was later. Earlier, it was with doing the deal with no wall. Wall, no wall. It was DACA, no wall. Now, later on, he goes on to, again, one of the small shows on Fox News, and he says the GOP is working with him on DACA deal. Of course, they've always wanted amnesty for illegals. Here's 02.
We're doing it in conjunction with the Republicans. We have a very, very good relationship with a lot of people. A lot of people want this to happen. They expect it to happen. And we'll see if it happens. But we'll only do it if we get extreme security, if we get not only surveillance, but everything that goes along with surveillance. And ultimately, we have to have the wall. If we don't have the wall, we're doing nothing.
You believe that? Okay, yeah, I believe that. We don't have the wall, have nothing. Now they backtracked on the wall. Now it's a fence, maybe a fence. It might be a drone that they fly over once every few years that could detect the difference between a deer and a person. That's a great one. I got to play that. I'm sorry. I have a minute now to do this one. But I can't do it. I don't have the time. Now, I want to read you something. Trump's War, my book, The War for Our Borders, The Dream is Over, pages 75 and 76. You think I didn't see this coming? I'll read this to you. My book. In addition to all documents related to border wall construction, Trump also asked Homeland Security for copies of every executive order and directive sent to immigration agents since Obama took office in 2009. 17 executive orders that includes the infamous 2012 executive order granting temporary clemency to children brought here by illegal immigrants. With the stroke of a pen, President Trump has the power to write another executive order nullifying Obama's illegal executive order. Now, Trump had promised to handle the situation humanely, but it has to be addressed. Barry O. seriously undermined the rule of law by signing that executive order. And he appealed to the same bleeding heart liberal sensibilities in undermining American borders as Merkel did in Germany. Yes, many of these people didn't have much choice when their parents brought them into this country illegally. But we've seen the results of supporting policies brought by one's heart instead of one's head. Read Trump's War. You'll see where I'm coming from.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
This is an earned path to citizenship, whether it's work, military service, education. It's not just about them, though, as important as that is. It's about who we are as a country.
Turn it off. Turn it off, who we are as a people. Who are you kidding? I know I'm liable to wake up tomorrow and hear Pelosi give a speech, not only about DACA, but that sex dolls should be able to vote in elections in San Francisco. We don't mean any sex doll in a factory. But any sex doll that's in a serious relationship with anyone will be given the right to vote in San Francisco in the next election because it's the humane thing to do. Because that's who we are as a people in San Francisco. Sex dolls are people, too, at the end of the day. And they need rights. They need every kind of right that the American citizen. In fact, they should have additional rights because they've been oppressed all these years in a factory. I mean, imagine being made of plastic, being born in a mold. Think about how inhuman that is to a sex doll. And so for that reason, we should compensate them and let them vote in elections. You can only make so many jokes about a thing that's not funny. Mark Short, former leader of Koch, never Trump effort, now pushing DACA amnesty as White House staffer. You didn't know this, but Trump made Mark Short director of legislative affairs. And during a Christian Science Monitor breakfast in Washington, D.C., he wanted amnesty for nearly 800,000 illegal aliens given temporary protected status. And regarding the hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens shielded by the DACA program, which Trump said he will officially end, this guy Short, Mark Short, who works for the Koch brothers, so-called conservatives, hinted that the administration will accept a clean amnesty bill from Congress that would not only legalize DACA recipients, but also create a surge at the U.S.-Mexico border and a surge in illegal immigration into the United States. A surge in legal immigration to the U.S. That's what they want. They all want it. The big money is on DACA. The big money is on immigration. If you want to see how crazy our country is becoming, where you can't even find out who's a conservative anymore and who's a liberal anymore, well, here's another one. Chelsea Manning, remember the traitor, sex changer, named fellow at Harvard University. Chelsea Manning, the so-called transgender U.S. Army soldier who should have been shot for what he did, but he was given amnesty by Barack Obama in the last minutes of his administration. He served 7 years in prison for leaking classified data. He's been named a visiting fellow at Harvard University. And here's what Harvard had to say about this traitor. Broadening the range and depth of opportunity for students to hear from and engage with experts, leaders, and policy shapers is a cornerstone of the Institute of Politics, said Harvard University. Of course, the Harvard Kennedy School, right? We welcome the breadth of thought-provoking viewpoints on race, gender politics, and the media. Conservatives need not apply. Chelsea Manning should not have been named a fellow at Harvard, but a creepo. They should have a special program at Harvard called Creepo, but they don't have it. This is how debased the country has become. Garbage, garbage, garbage. Let's take some more calls here on the Savage Nation. Trump's going left. He's going right. He's doing the Washington, D.C. two-step. And Schumer said something about the two-step here in 2007. He was caught on a hot mic after eating a hot pastrami saying Trump is boxed in 2007.
What we said was exactly accurate. Here's what I told him. I said, Mr. President, you're much better off if you can sometimes step right and sometimes step left. If you have to step just in one direction, you're boxed. Against that. Oh, it's going to work out, and it'll make us more productive, too.
Oh, really? Now, when did Obama ever step right? Did Obama ever step right to accommodate anyone on the other side? I don't remember it. Perhaps I'm mistaken. So, in other words, they got him dancing like a trained bear with a chain around his neck. And they're gloating about it. They had a great dinner. And here's Schumer about a Game of Thrones. This is very clever. I wonder who wrote this for him. And I'll refute it in a minute. Here's clip 10, old Schumer.
It's a medieval solution for a modern problem. A Game of Thrones idea for a world that is a lot closer to Star Wars. And the thing is, we have new modern solutions using our best technology.
Oh, yeah, I've heard it before.
We discussed some of them at the White House last night. Drones.
Really?
These drones can spot the difference from a deer or a human being crossing the border.
Can the drone, Senator Schumer, can a drone detect a liar from Brooklyn? I know it's accurate enough to detect the difference between a deer and a human being crossing the border. But can a drone detect a liar from Brooklyn crossing over into flyover country? Because I can. I don't need a drone to detect a liar and a two-faced liar. Well, I can play more of it. Here is Pelosi gloating. And you know the most important thing for you to remember is not only the Dreamer thing that's got us all agitated. It's Pelosi. She was relegated to the trash heap of history. Her own party wanted her gone. There was a movement to throw her out as a spokesmouth because she was so embarrassing to them. Trump just made her very relevant again. And if this keeps up, she's liable to be the next Speaker of the House all over again. And it will be all because of Trump. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? It makes you wonder. I had a caller yesterday who said he fears that Trump was selected by Democrats to shaft the Republican Party and give the Democrats control forever. I said, I don't believe that. But this is shocking. Here is Pelosi in clip 12 gloating about the dinner last night.
Leader Schumer and I had a very productive meeting with President Trump, where we agreed to a plan to work out an agreement to protect our nation's dreamers from deportation.
I hate that word,
we insisted
dreamers.
that the Bipartisan Dream Act, the one introduced by Congresswoman Luce Allard, would be the basis for the protection, and that we would review border security measures that do not include building a wall as we go forward.
So, in other words, we're going to get nothing out of the deal. And this creature from Pacific Heights, is now dictating immigration policy. This is how sickening this is. It's as though the entire election was nullified. It's as though Trump has permitted the election that we killed ourselves for to be nullified virtually overnight. And you have to ask yourself, why? Well, let me go back again to Trump's war, the war for our borders, page 75 and 76. I say with one's heart, I mean the millions of liberals who support open borders, not the evil-minded politicians like Obama, Merkel, and Clinton who intentionally invade their own countries. While there is at least room for a discussion on how to handle these, quote, dreamers compassionately, the hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants in our prisons or some other form of custody is a no-brainer. They have to go day one or as close to it as is reasonably possible. And I don't want you to lose my original suggestion, which is such a good one that it will not be implemented, because good ideas, as you all know, are destroyed. But here it is again, in case you just tuned in. Just burnt my hand on a lamp here in the studio. You know, it's unbelievable. Now he's talking about not going to stand for what Iran is doing. Now he's shape-shifting now. He gave an interview aboard Air Force One after a nice meatloaf lunch. And he says he's not going to stand for what Iran is doing. He already moved past DACA already. It's over. Schumer and Pelosi took over that deal. Now he's on to Iran till he backtracks and waffles on that one. And he says many Republicans like what I'm doing by working with Democrats. Really, Mr. Trump, but does your base like what you're doing? Why don't you ask me and I'll tell you what they like. I had a dream that I was with Donald Trump last night in my dream. But I don't mean just a dream. It was a detailed conversation about this whole immigration thing. And I gave him the ideas on how to solve the problem by maintaining something of his credibility with the people who voted for him. That was the dream. It was an interesting dream. Maybe I drank too much Bordeaux last night. I don't know. But the dream was sweet. It was a good dream. A friend of mine cooked some pizzas in his house on trays that were used by his grandfather in Brooklyn. I couldn't believe this. The guy lives in a mansion. And in the middle of things, we just went over to pick up some wine. And we hung out. It was a wonderful, wonderful night, it turned out. He said, Michael, you want some pizza? I had never really met him before. He's a friend of the family, very close friend of the family, but not in me. So, yeah, I love pizza. It's my weakness. So the guy owned restaurants since he's a young man in Brooklyn, everywhere else, Beverly Hills, Thailand. He's a restaurant owner, bar owner. He's a great guy. Remain anonymous. So he whips out the trays, aluminum trays that they have so many lines on them from the wheel. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, he made this pizza, and he said, Michael, listen to this as it came out of his little oven. He said, listen. So he rolls the wheel over the pizza, and you hear it crack. The crust cracks because it was a very thin-crusted Sicilian pie. He happens to be a Sicilian guy. Man, did he have a deft touch. So he says, look at the tray, Michael. Look how used this is. My father used it in his pizza shop. And he said, even my grandfather used it when he was a kid. I can't believe, that's an heirloom, right? Here's a guy with priceless antiques. Paintings on the wall to be worth more than you could imagine. Here he's using an old tray. What's the point of the story? I don't know. Is there a point? Must there be a point to everything that you observe in life? Must everything have a point to it? Yes, I can give you a point to it, but I'm not in the mood to. Also in attendance, and there's a point to what I'm going to tell you. Also in attendance was a guy who looked like a drummer in a rock band. Older guy, hair down to his shoulders, big guy like a bear. I had never met him before. He happened to be in the house. So he turns out to be an expert on art forgeries. And he's an expert on forged art. He's an expert on Rembrandt. He's an expert on Picasso. He's an expert on Dali paintings and many, many other great paintings. But we talked about forgeries. I said, you know how to look at a painting and say if it's forged? He said, let me explain what I do. He said, I have such good eyes, they're like x-ray eyes. I said, so let's start with the obvious. How do you know how old a canvas is? He said, I have a camera now that can detect the age of a canvas. He said, I don't even have to do that anymore. How about the pigments of the paint? He said, we can analyze the pigments of the paint and find out if it's old or new. And he said, many of them are actually taking paint off ancient, old paintings. Listen to this. Listen how sophisticated the forgers have become. Now, this goes along with Pelosi and Schumer, who are forging their humanity. They're making believe they have humanity for the dreamers when it has nothing to do with humanity and compassion. It has to do only with money, okay? Make no mistake about it. Just by calling them dreamers, they've already tricked you with the fugazi. So he says they're scraping paint off old paintings that are not rare and using old paint to forge a new painting. Could you believe this? So I said, how do you detect a forgery? He said, well, my eye is so good, I'm the best in the world, that I can tell by which way the paint is put onto the canvas whether it's the original painter. So then someone said, well, what about the signature? He says, that's an interesting one. He said, most of the great artists never signed their painting, believe it or not. Never signed their paintings. I didn't know any of this stuff. Well, I'm an art, let us say, aficionado, and I knew none of this stuff. But it got me thinking about the forgers, the fakers in politics, which I'd have to include all of them. We elected who we thought was a businessman, not a politician. In fact, that was one of the main calling cards he used that I used. I said, look, he's not a politician. He's a businessman. Well, I hope to God he maintains somewhat of his credibility as a businessman rather than just another lying politician. There is no other way to say it. I know the difference between pizza made comes in a box from a supermarket and pizza made by hand in a home oven, okay? I know the difference.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. You know that you can find out if your body is making enough nitric oxide simply by testing your own saliva. I know it sounds weird. It isn't, though. I've been raving about Super Beets because it's the best circulation superfood around. It works. It's a drink. And you'll find you get more energy, more stamina in as little as 20 minutes. My good friends at Super Beets send me saliva indicator strips. And by using your own saliva, you can see the changes in your nitric oxide level from using Super Beets. It's simple to do. And I love that Super Beets puts their money where their mouth is. For a limited time with your first order, Super Beets will also send you an entire month's supply of saliva indicator strips, a $25 value for free. With your order, you'll also get a free book plus your first can of Super Beets free. That's another $60 value for nothing, for free. Why don't you try it for yourself? Call 1-800-481-0504. You'll get a month's supply of indicator strips free to track those changes at a cellular level. More energy, more stamina while supporting healthy circulation. So call 800-481-0504 or go to SavageLovesBeats.com. That's SavageLovesBeats.com. 1-800-481-0504. We're talking about the disaster of immigration at the end of the day. Trump's number one issue that he used as a footstool to become president was the issue of immigration, which I am proud to say has been a keystone of my radio program since 1994. Immigration, immigration, immigration. Now, why do so many Americans have an almost obsession with securing our borders? Is it because they're racists or because they love their country and they don't want it turning into a third world hellhole? Is that clear enough for you? Do you actually think that all of these illegal aliens are going to become the next wave of Einsteins? You actually believe that garbage? Do you really believe that? That inside every one of them is another Einstein, another astronaut, another Boeing? Do you actually believe that? I don't. Because we're not getting the educated immigrants. We are not getting the highest level of immigrants. We're getting the lowest level of immigrants. Say, what? Is that the first time in American history? No. But shouldn't we have learned by now that we should be selecting our immigrants rather than being selected by the immigrants? Why do you think so many people around the world want to come here? And why do you think there's so much anti-American hatred in this country right now? Do you think it has nothing to do with all of the non-citizens who have no relationship to this nation? You think they're not easily manipulated by the white liberal communists who are telling them it's a racist nation? Here are millions of people who have come into this country illegally, living off the fat of the land, not paying any taxes, sending home billions of dollars to their home country, and hating this nation. You think we, the American people, don't know what's going on? So he said, the president said, immigration, immigration, immigration. Then he said, we're going to build that wall, build that wall, build that wall, build that wall. It's a good tune. Build that wall, build the wall, build the wall, Bill's wall, Bill's wall, Bill's wall, Bill's wall, Bill's walrus. That's what I promised you, Bill's walrus, and that's what you're going to get. I promised you Bill's walrus, and you're going to get Bill's walrus. I guarantee it.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
The wall will come later. We're right now renovating large sections of wall, massive sections, making it brand new. We're doing a lot of renovation. We're building 4 different samples of the wall to see which one we're going to choose, and the wall is going to be built. It'll be funded a little bit later.
Renovations? What, are you going to make it out of marble? Putting chandeliers on the wall like in Mar-a-Lago? What do you mean? What do you mean we're making it brand new? What kind of statement is that? Next, the president talks about people who were already... Nancy Pelosi was relegated to the dustbin of political history. I'll repeat it over and over again until you understand what just happened, what a disaster this is for you in America. Her own party had declared her to be the dodo that she is known to be. And, of course, a weight upon the Democrat Party that they wanted to throw overboard, actually just cut off altogether. They didn't want her attached to the party because her message was so extremist that she was pulling down the Democrat Party. Well, now Trump has made her relevant again. So now listen to 06.
We want to get massive border security, and I think that both Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, I think they agree with it. But so we met last night with, as you know, Schumer, Pelosi, and a whole group, and I think we're fairly close, but we have to get massive border security. Mitch is on board, Paul Ryan's on board. We all feel, look, 92% of the people agree on DACA. What? But what we want is very, very powerful...
Wait. 92% of which people agree on DACA? And what do they agree on? Where is this rubbish coming from? Mitch is on board. Paul Ryan's on board. We all feel, look, 92% of the people agree on... He means 92% of the criminals in Congress agree on it. Not 92% of the American people agree on it. So he had dinner last night with the enemies of our way of life and the Quislings in the Better Business Bureau who just simply want to do it for financial reasons. I would say to the people listening to this show, well, I would say to the President of the United States, why don't you have a dinner with true conservatives, including Michael Savage, and see what we think should be done about immigration, about the wall, and about the DACA kids, if you want to call them that. We have strong ideas. How come you're not inviting us? We're the people who put you in power. Why are we now excluded from the discussion? Why are you meeting with those who oppose everything we stand for and those who hate you? And I'll tell you something else. He may think that Pelosi and Schumer are going to cooperate with him on anything. He is very, very wrong. They hate him. They hate what he stands for, and they will shaft him at the end of the day. But apparently he wants to be loved by them, and I can't help it. There's nothing I can do about it. But again, I would put this out to the president, if any of your minions should hear this. We are the people that got you where you are. And you're going to need us again come 3 years. You're going to be back to radio. You're going to be coming back and doing the rounds again. And you're going to need to confuse the Eddies and the Ediths out there into thinking that you mean what you say and you say what you mean. And you're going to come to us and say, can you help me by having me on the show? Well, it's going to be an interesting point of view when that happens because we're so far away from that. But I would suggest that the president meet with Michael Savage and those who have strong feelings and ideas about immigration, because I'll spell them out for you again in case you don't know what it is. Are you ready? Do not deport the 800,000 or a million students brought here, the young people brought here by their parents. But eliminate all funding for all DACA programs at every college, junior college in America. Eliminate all the programs, no federal money. Make them fend for themselves. No programs, no scholarships, no advisors. And also to compensate for the 800,000 you are legalizing, in essence, in one way or the other, you're legalizing them. I want you to deport all the illegal alien prisoners immediately. There's about 600,000 to 700,000 of them in prisons across America. And so you can balance out the 800,000 or so with the 700,000 or so with the stroke of a few strokes of the pen. Did you hear what I just said? I'm actually in the idea business. That's why I have had 5 best-selling books in a row. I have to repeat it because many of you don't know who I am. I love when Politico reports what conservatives say. They make believe I don't exist. Well, you know what? They can go to hell because they don't exist as far as I'm concerned. My audience exists. I exist. My ideas will live long after Politico is gone and all the other magazines out there or internet publications that make believe Michael Savage doesn't exist. I exist and I have better ideas on this than anybody in this country. Nobody has matched my ideas on this balancing act. Nobody. And if you don't want to listen to what I have to say, do so at your own risk. Because I can guarantee you the president will. Now, why is it that there's such strong opposition to these poor kids who are brought here against their will? What do you mean brought here by against their will? Their parents smuggled them in order that they get a free ride. What do you mean they smuggled it? They came against it, didn't commit a crime. Of course their illegal alien parents brought them here for a better way of life. Who is paying for the better way of life? And at whose expense? Is it at the expense of Nancy Pelosi's children or grandchildren? No. Who is paying for the price of the illegal aliens called DACA? Who is paying for it? Poor whites, primarily, poor blacks, secondarily, and other races on the third rung. All the programs that are being sucked dry of money, all that money is going to these illegal alien kids. Do you understand that? Okay, that's all. So the people don't oppose the DACA kids on racial grounds. They oppose it on fiscal grounds. I want to be very clear about that. They oppose it on fiscal, not racial grounds. And anyone who says otherwise is the racist themselves. And why do people oppose more and more illegal aliens in this country? Borders, language, culture. Why? Well, here's an example from CBS Sacramento. Folsom School warns USA chant could send unintended message. Vista Del Lago High School in Folsom, California, had students chanting USA at a sporting event. But left-wing school and district officials are warning students that the chants USA, USA are inappropriate and intolerant. I don't know to who. The children don't know who it's intolerant of. So the school staff, usually filled with deviants of every kind, political deviants, and every other deviancy you can imagine, are telling the kids to shut their mouths, to practice empathy and kindness, but not patriotism. They want them not to chant USA, 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 because it could send messages, unintended messages to who? Muslims? They don't like it? Let them go back where they came from. To illegal aliens from Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador? They don't like USA, USA, USA? Let them go back to the third world hellhole they came from if they don't like the country. This is exactly why we don't want amnesty for DACA! How many different ways do I have to tell you? Mr. Trump, do you understand what the real world is? It's not eating pork pie with Nancy Pelosi. It's not eating roast beef sandwiches with Chuck Schumer. You better listen to the people who put you where you are. Or as Jimmy Durante said, Mr. Trump, I know you like humor. You have a good sense of humor. I'll give you a Jimmy Durante. Be awfully nice to all those you meet on the way up, because you're going to meet them on the way down. That's what Jimmy Durante said. The people are unforgiving. They voted for you because they thought you were not a politician. You said you were a businessman. You said you'd clean the swamp. You said you'd build the wall. You said you'd ban any more illegal aliens. You said that you would stop Muslims from flooding into America. Which part of that message do you think that the people who voted for you have forgotten? I don't know which part. I don't think they've forgotten any of it. So that's it. That's my overview of how to deal with the issue. Trump says he's fairly close to a DACA deal. Now, we keep hearing from the liar, Nancy Pelosi, that DACA recipients are very patriotic and they serve in the military. How many of them do you think actually serve in the military? I specialize in facts, ma'am, only the facts. Take a guess how many people in the military are those who have signed contracts to serve, according to the Pentagon. 900. Fewer than 900. Did you hear? Of the 800,000 or a million DACA people, Pelosi makes it sound like they're all patriots who served in the military. According to the Pentagon, fewer than 900 people serving in the military now, or have signed contracts related to DACA. There's only 900 of them. So there's none of them, basically. Almost zero. Less than 900 people currently serving in the military who came here under DACA, who signed contracts to serve as recipients of DACA. 900, said Pentagon spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Paul Haverstick in a statement Wednesday. 900 individuals are part of the military accession vital to the national interest, the Mavney pilot program. 900. 900. Here's another one to show you the two and triple tiered system of justice in America. If you're a poor white or a poor black, you are like a slave class in this country in prison. Lawyers just pled to keep weak and sick Anthony Weiner out of jail. Anthony Weiner's lawyers cast him as a weak man in a self-destructive spiral when he exchanged sexually explicit messages with a teenage girl. And so in the sentencing memorandum filed late last night, his lawyers said he was in the depths of an uncontrollable sickness when the underage sex session took place. The memo said the crime is a product of sickness. And so therefore they want leniency. No jail time, because he's had a remarkable career in public service. And he laments his troubled childhood. Now he's blaming his parents now for doing a thing like this. Can you believe how low this guy is? The legal filing also portrays Weiner as the victim of a young girl. And so forth and so on. So that, my friends, is the world that we live in. Lies piled upon lies with an extra side of schmaltz wrapped in a pastrami sandwich and served to you as wholesome health food. This is the Savage Nation. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
We had a very good meeting with the Speaker in which we agreed to move forward to try to put the DREAM Act on the floor as soon as possible. He, too, wanted to see
right
some
there.
border.
Now, again, the word dream is such a misnomer. They're so smart. The devil is very clever. Dreamers. Of course they're dreamers. They're here illegally. They're getting all the benefits that your children are not getting. You'd be dreaming, too. You'd be dreaming that you landed in heaven, that you landed in such a moronic country that shafts its own native children, Mr. Trump, in favor of children who never belonged here to begin with. I have a solution. Don't deport them. Cut off all funding for all DACA programs. Make them fend for themselves like regular American students. And to compensate for the 800,000 to a million of them, deport the 600,000 to 700,000 illegal alien prisoners in the United States of America. Then maybe the American people would say you're not a complete liar. Now, listen to me carefully, everyone listening to this show. I'm going to open this up once, and you better grab that number right away, 855-400-SAVAGE. Call if you want DACA kids to stay and why, but you have to have a why. Call if you are in favor of granting amnesty to the DACA kids and why. You give me a why. Vincent on WABC, welcome to the Savage Nation. Go ahead quickly.
Mike, I just feel like the key word is kids. They're kids, and it's our government that let them in here, and it's not their fault because they're kids.
You mean even if they're 21, they're still kids?
I don't think everybody came in when they were 21 with their parents.
And what if they're members of gangs, active member of gangs? Are they still nice dreamers to you?
No, it's a different story.
But many of them are members of gangs. Are you aware of that?
I guess I'm sure. Absolutely sure. But you want to get...
So you want amnesty for the gang members too?
Say that again?
You want amnesty for the gang members who are here under DACA?
No. No.
All right, so you agree that amongst the, quote, 800,000, there are some that should not be granted amnesty. For example, gang members, you would say deport them, correct?
Yes.
All right, so at least you're open to reason. What about those who come here and claim that they're students and then defraud the government and they're not even going to school? Would you deport them?
Out.
So that's 40 to 50% fraud rate, according to a federal official who ran the program. 40 to 50% of them actually don't stay in school. Are you aware of that, Vincent? They're using it as a ploy?
I wasn't aware of that, but...
All right, well, at least you're willing to listen, and you're a reasonable man. Most Americans don't even want to know the facts. Their minds are made up one way or the other. But I thank you for calling the program. God, faith, and freedom. No. God, faith, and reason. Yes. God, faith, and reason. Without reason, there's no reason to even have a conversation. Without reason, you may as well just go to sleep and get ready for the next world. Call if you want DACA kids to stay and why, but give me a why. At least that man had a reasonable mind. Here are some other stories that I haven't gotten to. Let's see if they're of any value to you. We found out there's only 900 people in the military who came here as part of DACA. Nancy Pelosi makes it sound like they're all serving in the military. What's this? I can't read the rest of this story. I'm getting a migraine already. Let's see what else I have for you. High school shooter showed off assault rifle on social media. I wonder, was he on meds? No, he was on Jell-O. You have a picture of him? I have a picture of him on michaelsavage.com in a clown makeup. Clowns are now frightening. Number one movie is this clown movie, I hear. I never liked clowns. They always scared me. I paint clowns because I don't like them. I think I will post a picture of the clown I recently painted for my art class next week. I'm not home. I don't have it with me. I can't get it. I mean, actually, I do have it on my iPhone. Ivanka Trump claims she doesn't vote. Oh, I don't care what she says. Please leave me alone. I didn't elect her. Bernie Sanders' health care bill for all. They have great health care in Cuba, Bernie. Why don't you try it the next time you have dyspepsia? See how they treat your dyspepsia in Havana. I love all of these idiots. Health care for all sounds good. I'd want it too if I wasn't supplying any money to this economy. It sounds great. Single-payer health plan. Health care for all. They have it in Cuba. It's worked out real well. When Castro got sick, he flew in a Spanish doctor from Spain. That's how good the Cuban doctors are. You wouldn't have a Cuban doctor work on a dog. Neither would Fidel Castro. He flew in a Spanish doctor because the Jewish doctors from Miami weren't available. They weren't left. Health care for all. Worked out real well in Cuba, Bernie. Okay. Number 3. Number 4. Oh, yes. Lee in New York says, keep all of the DACA kids here. We need the educated students. You hear? They're all Einsteins, every one of them. Everyone's an Einstein.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Michael Savage here. Look, I have a very, very diverse audience of listeners. Some agree with me, some disagree with me, but they listen on a regular basis. Some are politically opposite to me, but they like to reason and they want to hear my ideas, and then they come to their own conclusions. And most of us have our minds made up. As adults, we're rigid in our thinking. And they don't want to reason, or I don't want to reason, but I'm being very reasonable on this DACA deal. The reason they should not be granted amnesty is because the American people don't want it. But let's say that you agree that the country's divided and that you have to compromise and that you have to grant amnesty to these 800,000 or a million of them. I've come up with a compensation, which is deport the 600,000 to 700,000 illegal aliens who are in prisons. That's number one. And number two, Mr. Trump, cut all funding for all DACA programs. Make them fend for themselves just as I did. Maybe you grew up in Jamaica Estates and your father was a successful construction or builder, and he was. I respect that. I grew up on the other side of Union Turnpike in Queens, and we were not exactly poor, but my father was an immigrant. He worked his way up from a slum in the Bronx to an attached house in Queens that we rented. Then he bought an attached house on Utopia Parkway for $14,000 in 1952. I went to city colleges. I went to Queens College because we couldn't afford to go to a private college. Nobody gave me special help. There were no programs for the children of immigrants. There were no benefits, no scholarships. And it made me a stronger man, a much stronger man and a better American. And that's what they need. They need strong medicine, not a free ride in this country. But I've asked those of you who are in favor of amnesty for DACA kids to call us and tell us why. Glenda, KPRC. You are calling the Savage Nation. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hi. Thank you for having me on your show. I feel as if a lot of the information that you're spewing is not correct. These people who are recipients of the DACA program have to have an extremely extensive background check to qualify.
Glenda, you sound like you're just making this up as you talk.
No,
so where do you get your evidence from?
I get my evidence from the news, from BBC.
Oh, the news. Oh, yeah, okay.
I know. It's the left side. I know you're not very fond of that, but they're the...
Well, how about if I give you some facts rather than the news? Would you like some facts from a man who was a former immigration official? Would you be at least willing to listen to that if I'll give you the man's name and what he has to say?
I'd be willing to listen to that, no doubt, but I'm not going to sit here and have you say that these people are gang members.
What do you mean you're not going to sit there and say, who are you? Who the hell are you to tell me you're not going to sit there and let me say, who the hell are you? What do you think? You're in your college classroom right now telling everyone to shut up because you're so important? You're going to listen to me. Who are you? You're nobody. I'll give you the evidence if you want it, Glenda, on KPRC. Are you willing to listen? Or because you can't shoot your mouth off now, you're going to hang up the phone?
Give me the name. Give me the name of the person. What's his name? What's the name of the person who claims that there are this amount of people who are in the program who are gang officials? DACA fraud rate is at 40 to 50%, according to, are you ready? The former manager of the USCIS, manager of the agency's investigative unit, Matt O'Brien, alleged that the fraud rate for DACA is roughly 40 to 50% and potentially even higher. And he's quoted by saying, based on what I had seen and what I discussed with my colleagues, the fraud rate is at 40 to 50%. According to O'Brien, the DACA program was riddled with fraud and abuse from the beginning, where illegal alien applicants for the program allegedly lied on applications and were rarely caught by USCIS officials. And he says there's a huge rate of fraud in this program. I can pause right there, but you can read it for yourself. I thank you for listening. I'm sure your mind is made up because you're positive that you're right, and all of those who came from the countries of origin that you're so fond of are also all sterling citizens. Since DACA's inception, only 2,100 DACA recipients saw their protected status revoked for being involved in gang activity, only 2,100, or suspected or convicted of a felony. And due to a loophole in the DACA program, more than 39,000 illegal aliens have been able to obtain green cards, and more than 1,000 of them naturalized. WABC, Tamir, line 5. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Yes. So I'm actually from Dhaka. Right now my status is from Dhaka. And since I got the Dhaka situation right now, I'm very successful. I opened 2 stores and I have over 32 employees at the moment in the state of New Jersey. So
what kind of business is it, Tamir?
Supermarkets.
Okay, very good for you. Now, you came here under DACA as a student?
No, I was here illegally when former President Obama legalized that program. I apply and I get my status.
But wait a minute, let me see if I follow. How did you qualify for DACA? Your parents brought you here illegally?
That's correct.
Okay, so who built a supermarket chain?
I did.
In only 2 years, you built a supermarket chain?
Because before that, I was here over 6 years working hard for that. Before I be legalized.
And but in only 2 years since King Obama gave you status, you already have a chain of supermarkets?
Yes, it's 6 years, by the way. That's my 5th year right now in the program.
Well, I have no way to confirm or deny your statement. I'll have to take it on face value. How many of your employees are legal citizens?
All of them.
Now, I don't know whether to believe you. How do you know all of them are legal?
Because what you call it, you run for the insurance, you give them the insurance and all that, and also you get audited by the RIS every single year for the worker compensation. So,
all right, you sound like you're on the level, so let me ask you, what do you think of my idea of compensating for the 800,000 to 1 million DACA students, and cut all funding for all DACA programs? Would you agree with that or not?
I absolutely agree for one thing. I pay for my college. I didn't get any funding from any.
All right, fine. So you and I are both immigrants in that sense, fine. But what about deporting illegal alien prisoners who are in jail? There's about 600,000 to 700,000 of them who committed felonies, and they're in prison. Would you agree with me that to compensate for the 800,000 or so that would be granted amnesty here in essence, we should deport those in prison who are here illegally?
Of course, with one condition, we have to know why they be in prison for what reason? Not for parking tickets, not for stupid things.
No. The people I mention are felonies. They're not here for minor crimes. They've committed numerous crimes and finally got caught. Of course you wouldn't deport someone for a parking ticket.
Yes, so...
Tamir, are you a Palestinian by birth?
No.
What is your country of origin?
Egyptian. And Muslim, too.
I'm sorry, you said Egyptian and then you said something else. I missed it.
Muslim. I'm Muslim. My religion is Islamic. I'm Muslim.
All right, but you sound like a hard-working man as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And why is it that you listen to this program if I disagree with almost everything you believe in?
You believe or not, I disagree with everything, probably 90% of what you're saying in the radio. But I like to get the idea of the other party, what they thinking, how they develop their situations and everything. So I'll listen to all.
Okay, so you're an open-minded man. Do you like the president of Egypt right now?
No.
Oh, so you don't like General? Is it Assisi?
Yes.
You don't like him. Why?
Because the way he came in the power.
So you prefer the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt?
No.
Well, if you don't like him, who do you like in Egypt?
Probably we don't have that choice like in U.S. You can choose.
But didn't General Assisi cut back on terrorism in your homeland?
To be honest with you, I've been here over 16 years. I don't follow what's going on in Egypt that much.
Okay, that's very clever. You're very smart. I can see why the Egyptians built the pyramids. I can see you have a very sharp mind. You'd be a very good lawyer. You're very, very smart, and I appreciate your not only your courage to express your opinion, but to do so in English as a second language, which is not easy. I can't think it's very easy to speak Egyptian as a child and learn how to speak English. How many other languages do you speak, Tamir?
Just English and Arabic.
And would you say English is a difficult language?
No. That's the easier language in Earth.
It's easy? It's an easy language?
It's a very easy language.
What is the most difficult language in your mind? Is it Arabic?
Yeah, you can speak to somebody like more about different languages than me, but from my experience, I only know 2 languages, so I can't really tell you which language is the hardest language.
All right. Well, look, I really appreciate your point of view, but we did find out that there is an official with the agency in charge of DACA who says there's a 40 to 50% fraud rate. I'm sure that even you would say that those who defraud DACA should be deported or at least taken out of the DACA program. Would you agree with that?
Under certain standards, yes, I will be agreeing.
Well, so you're a very reasonable person. Last question of the day, Tamir. You say that you disagree with 90% of what I say. Tell me the 10% that you agree with that you often hear on this program on WABC in New York. What do you agree with?
Nothing in my mind at the moment.
I know your friends are listening now. Now you don't want to tell them. I'll bet I know where you agree with me, which is on family values. That I can guarantee you.
You're absolutely correct in this part, but it's a lot more than that, too. Sometimes situation happen over news or something happen overseas or something like that, and I hear your station, and I agree with you. Sometimes against Mr. Trump, the president, or sometimes it's against Obama back days when I listen to you in back days, too.
All right, you're a very intelligent man, and you're somewhat open-minded. I don't think we agree with each other on this issue, but at least we heard each other on this issue. I'm sending you a copy. I'm giving you a choice if you want a book from me at all. Would you like one of 2 free books?
That was very encouraging from you, but thank you so much. I don't have even time to read books, to be honest.
Oh, that's because if I send you the God, Faith, and Reason book, you're not going to like it because it's not about Islam, right?
I don't even know what book you're going to send it to me.
Well, I wouldn't send you a book that would get you in trouble with your employees. I don't want them to be mad at you. So I'll tell you what, let's depart friends. And I appreciate you listening to the show on WABC. Thank you very much. Well, you see that? Yes, it is. See, that's the whole story. WABC Lee, line 3. Why would you keep the DACA students here?
Hi, Michael. I would keep them here because only if one of them is an Einstein, it would be okay. Now, I totally agree with you that they should...
Whoa. Let's say of 1 million DACA students, if there's only one Einstein, that's enough for you?
Yeah. But I don't...
Well, that's the old liberal argument, which is I'd rather see 99 guilty men go free than one innocent man be incarcerated. So you grew up in that pure liberalism, didn't you?
Well, no. My mom was...
No, you have the same mentality as those who say I'd rather see 99 guilty men go free than one innocent man convicted. You're expressing the same exact analogy with regard to DACA. You said if only one of the 800,000 is an Einstein, it's worth it to you. That's the same illogic that you're using.
Well, yes, but I don't think you should give them anything. I think you should just let them stay here.
Yeah, but they get unlimited benefits. I have the numbers of how much money it costs to keep them here. Do you know what kind of programs are in place for them? Thanks for the call. Too many and very expensive. And at the expense of our own students. Not fair. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now. 855-400-SAVAGE. 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Welcome back to the Savage Nation. Let me give you some solid career advice before we go back to the news. Listen to me carefully. Dress for the job you want, not the job that you have. Whether you're dressing for work or dressing to go out, people happen to notice the clothes you wear. They do. It's why I wear Charles Tyrrell clothing. I mean, shirts. We all love quality clothes, but until now, your options were brutal. It was either high-quality, ridiculously overpriced shirts or affordable, out-of-style shirts that wrinkle the minute you put them on. CT shirts are the best shirts you can get. They're British style using the softest fabrics. They're the most exquisitely crafted, crease-free shirts I've ever worn. Tie or no tie, tucked in or untucked. You'll get compliments in a CT shirt. And here's the deal I got for you. One CT shirt normally costs $100, but right now you'll get 3 shirts for just $99. 3, that's 60% off. And CT shirts come with free delivery, a 6-month quality guarantee, and free returns. You can't beat it. $99 for 3 amazing CT shirts, but you need to hurry. Please go to ctshirts.com/savage. ctshirts.com/savage. That's ctshirts.com/savage. Armando on KLIF in Dallas, line 4. Should the dreamers, so-called, be given legal status, and if so, why?
Absolutely. They should definitely be given legal status. We're talking about adults who have grown up here, they lived here their entire life, learned the language, they've worked, maybe illegally, but they paid their taxes. Maybe some, maybe most. But these are red-blooded Americans, just like anybody else, who pay their taxes.
Well, what if they came here illegally? What if they're here illegally and they didn't even go to college and they defrauded the whole program?
Well, Americans do that too. I mean,
whoa! I didn't ask you about Americans do that too, and you just gave yourself away. You said Americans do that too. So you've just undermined your own argument. They're not like every other American. You said Americans do that too. You mean criminal Americans do that too? Not all Americans do that. So I'm asking you, even let's say there's 800,000, and what if the fraud rate is 40,000? You're saying all of them should be granted legal status?
Absolutely not. And everybody,
All right, okay, at least we agree on that. I want to give a lot of people time. I only have 1 minute and 17 seconds. That's all. I'm glad I'm getting so many people who normally don't agree with me to listen to the show and have the brains and the guts to call, and I'm not kidding you. Did you hear what I just said? It doesn't mean we're going to go away agreeing with each other, but at least we're going to hear each other's ideas. I am very disappointed in Donald Trump for a number of reasons. And let's conclude this hour with that one. He got nothing for this deal. It's supposed to be the art of the deal? That's the art of the schlemiel. He's supposed to be a hard negotiator. What did he get out of this deal with Schumer and Pelosi so far? Nothing. Zero. He said, well, okay, we're going to do DACA, and then maybe we'll do the wall a little bit. Maybe tiny, minuscule drones. You got to get something to give something. It's a rule of law. It's a rule of life. It's the rule of the jungle. It's the rule of negotiation. Trump has given away the store and gotten nothing except promises from people who, let us say, are not trustworthy. And that is not a good thing. Don't deport the 800,000, cut funding for all DACA programs, make them fend for themselves, and deport illegal alien prisoners to compensate for them. How's that for an idea? I think it's a good one.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Well, we keep hearing the big lie. They were brought here no fault of their own. They're all future astronauts and brain surgeons. What do you mean no fault of their own? If the parents committed a crime by bringing them here illegally, let's start from the top. These are not anchor babies. That's another problem that no one's talking about. So on top of the 1 million, let's say 800,000, that's like saying there's 11 million illegal aliens. For 10 years, they've been saying there's 11 million illegal aliens. We know the number, by my estimates, of 30 to 40 million at least. 11 million over and over again. Blue Flits, 11 million, 11 million, 11 million. Not 11 million, 40 million illegals. Maybe 100 million. Now you have anchor babies. A total crazy thing. A totally crazy thing. Canada stopped it. Canada stopped it because the country was about to become another country. There was a Chinese-Canadian member of parliament in Canada who saw that the Chinese women were coming in their 9th month of pregnancy and delivering on the airplane or the minute they hit Canada. And he said, well, this has to stop. Socialist Canada ended the anchor baby trick, the loophole. But we can't do it. Why? Because there's so much money involved in this area of illegal immigration. That's why the Koch brothers, for example, are in favor of DACA being given citizenship. I told you this. I disclosed it to you over a year ago. Yes, the very powerful, quote, right-wing Koch brothers are invested very deeply in homes, group homes for the illegal aliens, the DACAs. I don't think you know any of this. There's so much money involved. So anyway, so we get back to the DACA deal. War will come later. So someone emails me and says, wait a minute, you're going to deport illegals who are in prison as part of the trade-off, and they're going to be freed right onto our streets with the border control so lax as it is. Okay, it's a good point. They're going to come right back across the border. So here's another solution. There's always an answer to a question. If you have a logical mind, and you're not Nancy Pelosi, you have a logical answer to that problem. You get, though, the illegal aliens in prisons who are the least violent, if there is such a thing. I doubt that they'd be in prison if they weren't violent. And you ask them if they'd like to volunteer to build a wall. You pay them whatever the prison wage is. And after they're through building the wall, you make sure they're building it from the Mexico side, and they wall themselves out of our country. That's not a bad idea. It's a twofer. They build a wall, and they're walled into Mexico rather than into America. They're not building it on this side. Or you keep a few openings in there for them to go to, and at the end they're on the other side, and that's the end of it. Okay? Dreamers should build a wall. Let the dreamers do something for America. What have they done for America other than feather the nests of the administrators in the colleges and feather the nests of the Democrat Party who are salivating over them like they're the next crop of Einsteins? This whole thing stinks to the highest. Trump has shocked everybody with this. He got so screwed up with this that he had to backtrack already this morning. Last night he came out of the dinner with Schumer and Pelosi. He was already glowing about the deal. Then this morning the flack was so heavy. No wall, no deal. Here's one now. This is the second Trump. No, 01.
At some point they're going to have to. They cannot obstruct the wall. The wall to me is vital. If I don't get the wall, then we will become the obstruction.
What has to come first, wall and agreement on the wall?
We have to have an understanding that whether it's in the budget or some other vehicle, in a fairly short period of time, the wall will be funded. Otherwise, we're not doing any deal.
Okay, we're not. That was later. Earlier, it was with doing the deal with no wall. Wall, no wall. It was DACA, no wall. Now, later on, he goes on to, again, one of the small shows on Fox News, and he says the GOP is working with him on DACA deal. Of course, they've always wanted amnesty for illegals. Here's 02.
We're doing it in conjunction with the Republicans. We have a very, very good relationship with a lot of people. A lot of people want this to happen. They expect it to happen, and we'll see if it happens. But we'll only do it if we get extreme security, if we get not only surveillance, but everything that goes along with surveillance. And ultimately, we have to have the wall. If we don't have the wall, we're doing nothing.
You believe that? Okay, yeah, I believe that. We don't have the wall, have nothing. Now they backtracked on the wall. Now it's a fence, maybe a fence. It might be a drone that they fly over once every few years that could detect the difference between a deer and a person. That's a great one. We hear that Trump is fairly close to a DACA deal. What's the deal? What do you mean deal? What kind of deal is this? The art of the schlemiel is what it looks like, not the art of the deal. He got rolled by Pelosi and rolled by Schumer. That's no deal. That's the art of the schlemiel, Donald. You're supposed to be a tough businessman. What are we getting out of the deal? Nothing. Nothing, nada, garnished. Nothing, zero. So what's the solution? What is the solution? I gave you a solution. I'll give it again. Maybe you didn't hear it on the Savage Nation. You don't want to deport the 800,000 DACA kids, if you want to call them that, just for the sake of discussion. The sacred DACA kids. Your kids, nothing. Your kids, garbage. But they're sacred. They're all wonderful future Americans. Every one of them is an Einstein, a brain surgeon, a NASA astronaut, the next Boeing. Every one of them is a genius in the bud. So we're not going to deport them, Nancy. We're going to keep the 800,000 wonderful, wonderful kids that you're in love with. You can wash their feet. Every one of them can be brought to your house to have their feet washed because you love washing the feet of illegal aliens, which you've done in the past to show how wonderful and warm you are. So we're not going to deport them. But we're cutting the funding for all DACA programs. Every college, every community college, every state college is going to have all the funding cut for DACA programs across America. And these wonderful kids who were such great future Americans will have to fend for themselves, as I did as an immigrant son, and as others in America do who don't come from families and don't get government support. Zero funding. That's number one. And number two, Charlie Schumer, we're deporting 30% of all the prisoners in America who are illegal aliens. 30% of 2.3 million. 30% of 2.3 million is approximately 700,000 illegal aliens. We're going to start the buses rolling, and we're starting them the day that we accept DACA. There's the deal. That's the art of the deal, Mr. Trump. I want to shift, though, to something entirely different. Okay, we all want to pay for the hurricane relief. We agree on that. So the question is, how do you pay for it? Where does that $7 billion come from? First, you say, in addition to that, or to do that, I want to assure the American people who voted for me, who are fiscal conservatives, that we're going to cut some programs and cut them significantly. And then Donald Trump says we're going to begin with planned infanticide. We're cutting every dime off as of now. As of midnight tonight, Planned Parenthood doesn't get a nickel. NPR, not 1 cent more. We're not giving them 10 cents more. Let them go out into the free market and see how smart they are with their bloated salaries. Now, I can give you 20 other things to do, and I will. The Heritage Foundation has an article that I just found for you from 2010, how to cut $343 billion from the federal budget. That was 7 years ago. 7 years ago, how to cut $343 billion from the federal budget. And he lists one program after the other. Agriculture, eliminate the Foreign Agriculture Service. Fund the Food Safety and Inspection Service with user fees. Commerce, community development. Oh, get me started on the community development money. Do you know how much money is blown on billions of dollars on fake programs? Shall I name them all? How about education? How about cutting Pell Grants? How about cutting Head Start? How about cutting back on the Education Department bureaucracy? How about cutting back on state grants? How about the Energy Department? What would you do there? I have more areas to cut. Donald Trump needs to listen to me. Of course we need to pay for relief, and of course we do. Fine. So you cut certain programs to pay for it. We had a very good meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. President Trump told reporters on Air Force One. We agreed to a 3-month extension on debt ceiling, which they consider to be sacred, very important. The deal will be very good. It'll make a lot of people happy, he said. Well, fine. If the president needs to spend the money, then he's got to cut somewhere, and he's got to raise the money somewhere. So he starts by making Microsoft, Facebook, Google, and the other tech giants pay their fair share immediately. Not through long-winded programs, but immediately. And he doesn't listen to his daughter, and he doesn't listen to the son-in-law who are now friends with Silicon Valley. And he says, I'm sorry, we need to get the money somewhere. I'm writing an executive order tonight, and all the money they have parked offshore, we're taxing at 50%. That's it. They don't like it, they can sue me, but we're taking the money right now out of foreign accounts. That's number one. And you want me to cut some funds? We start with NPR, not a nickel. There are so many other things that can be done. It's been thought about. National Science Foundation, one of the greatest boondoggles in the history of the world. Reduce the National Science Foundation's funding to levels of 10 years ago. Eliminate National Science Foundation spending on elementary and secondary education. That was never their mandate. How about transportation? Why not privatize Amtrak? I mean, start with something like that. I'm giving you examples of what could be done. You want thought, I'm giving you thought. I am a real PhD. I'm the only one in the history of talk radio with a real earned PhD from a great university in a science. So you want thought, I'm giving you thought. You want ideas, I'm giving you ideas. I'm not just talking about hyperbole. I'm not just blowing hot air. I'm naming programs. I'm telling you what to eliminate. I'll keep going. Devolve the federal highway program and most transit spending to the states. Privatize Amtrak. Eliminate the Maritime Administration. It's unnecessary. Eliminate the additional child refundable credit in the Treasury Department. In the Treasury Department, eliminate the Community Development Financial Institution Fund. What else should be done? Oh, there's so much that can be done. Things you never heard of. Repeal the Davis-Bacon Act. Repeal unspent stimulus spending. It's still out there. Do you know that? Years later, it's still out there. How about the Small Business Administration? Shouldn't we just eliminate it? It unnecessarily intervenes in free markets. Why not get rid of the SBA? Eliminate AmeriCorps. Eliminate the National Community Services Program, such as AmeriCorps. That's socialism, not capitalism. Now, here's some other ones that you may not have thought about. Eliminate the National Endowment for the Arts. If you're a real artist, go out and paint. Do it on your own. The minute you get a government grant, you're no longer an artist. You're just a propagandist. Somehow, in ages gone by, great art was created without government spending. Eliminate the National Commission of Fine Arts. These are just the beginnings. There are many, many others. How about the Affordable Care Act, something you've heard about, Obamacare? Couldn't we do something in cutting spending there? Look at the Russians here in America. You want me to touch on another sore point? Everything that was promised to the Russians in communist Russia and was not given to them by the liars in communist Russia, they get here in spades in America for free. And they abuse the system that in a way you can never imagine. I speak to doctors in San Francisco. The Russians are perhaps the most abusive of all the immigrants because they're very demanding people. And they feel that what they're entitled to, so they go to the doctor and they demand things that you wouldn't believe. Well, there has to be a limit to everything. There's an answer to saving money if you have to pay for hurricane relief. And that doesn't mean blowing the budget apart, Mr. Trump. So you cut You cut payments. You cut Medicare. And, of course, there's another really sensitive one, Social Security. I know many of you are on Social Security, and you're good fiscal conservatives because you don't pay any taxes. You say you paid your taxes, and you are entitled to this. All right, talk about that if you want. We can't afford it. How about pensions, government pensions? Why can't we cut government pensions retroactively? Say, well, no, they signed up, they're entitled. No, they're not entitled to anything. You're entitled to anything you want. But if you can't pay for it, you cut it. So you cut government pensions by 10% overnight. You don't just say we're going to do it because Schumer wants it. I am giving you examples of what could be done. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. It is the Savage Nation. Just looking at my own website. I like it. It's actually a pleasure. How many of them are old? They used to be old all the time. Look in the bottom. They were there for like 3 years. Our elite university safe. Firemen abandoned house blaze after being attacked in Swedish no-go zone. That's an old story. Violence erupts in Caribbean after Hurricane Irma. That's an old story. But you don't know that there was a gang. I heard of 800 islanders with machetes who went hotel room to hotel room. Did you know that, Robert? Did you guys hear that story? I didn't know it. A gang of 800 islanders went house to house and hotel room to hotel room in the Caribbean, pillaging after the hurricane. Could you believe this? That's the end of tourism. I've always seen the underbelly of the Caribbean. Very dangerous. Hello, the pirates. You forgot the pirates of the Caribbean? Now, here's an important one for you on my website. Former immigration official says DACA fraud rate is 40 to 50%. I want you to store that one in your memory bank. That's the most important thing you're going to learn today, amongst other important things. Fraud is rampant and huge for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals DACA program. A former official with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services Agency alleges in an interview with LifeZet, former USCIS manager of the agency's investigative unit, Matt O'Brien, alleged that the fraud rate for DACA is roughly 40 to 50% and potentially even higher. Under DACA, nearly 800,000 illegal aliens were given temporary protective status and work permits to remain in the U.S. During the Obama administration, background screening was near zero. 40 to 50% fraud rate. Now, I have to cap that off with Nancy Pelosi telling us how wonderful the students are, that they're the real heroes. They're the real patriots, not your child. No, not you. Not you. No. No. The real patriots are the illegal aliens. And you wonder why people despise Schumer and Pelosi. You wonder why there was a revolution at the ballot box. Now, I want to read you something. Trump's War, my book, The War for Our Borders, The Dream is Over, pages 75 and 76. You think I didn't see this coming? I'll read this to you. My book. In addition to all documents related to border wall construction, Trump also asked Homeland Security for copies of every executive order and directive sent to immigration agents since Obama took office in 2009. 17 executive orders that includes the infamous 2012 executive order granting temporary clemency to children brought here by illegal immigrants. With the stroke of a pen, President Trump has the power to write another executive order nullifying Obama's illegal executive order. Now, Trump had promised to handle the situation humanely, but it has to be addressed. Barry O. seriously undermined the rule of law by signing that executive order, and he appealed to the same bleeding heart liberal sensibilities in undermining American borders as Merkel did in Germany. Yes, many of these people didn't have much choice when their parents brought them into this country illegally, but we've seen the results of supporting policies brought by one's heart instead of one's head. Read Trump's War. You'll see where I'm coming from.
Savage.
If the election were held today, would you vote for Donald Trump again is one question. Now, I have a solution for the DACA compromise, and there's going to be a compromise as sure as I'm sitting here. Remember that 50% of the country did not vote for Republicans. To make it easy for us, without quibbling over numbers, just assume that the voter base is 50-50. 50-50, and the other side hates Donald Trump and hates us. And there has to be a compromise in every deal. Everything in life is a compromise, whether it is a business deal, a political deal, a marriage deal, a friendship deal. No one gets 100% unless they're a dictator. And as I've always said, a bird needs two wings to fly. Unfortunately, this country's been flying to the left for so long that I think even Donald Trump has forgotten that the right wing has been tied to the bird's body. So if DACA considerations are the deal maker for a wall, and for tougher immigrant rules, and for tax breaks, okay, that's what's going to happen. But I have a solution. You're never going to deport 800,000 or 1 million illegal alien children. Never. It's not going to happen. It just won't happen. There'll be riots in every city in the country. So there is a solution. And unfortunately, Donald Trump doesn't listen to the savage nation. He listens to radio shows that have no audience, hosts that have no audience, and TV shows that have 1/50th the audience of this show. But I'll say it anyway. Here is the solution, Donald Trump. Maybe one of your esteemed assistants will send this to you. Do not deport those on DACA, where there's a 40 to 50% swindle rate, by the way, according to people in the government. 40 to 50% of them are not even students. You don't deport them. You cut funding for all DACA programs. You eliminate all funding for all DACA programs. And let these illegal children fend for themselves as we did. And as all American children fend for themselves without help, make them fend for themselves. In addition, as part of my solution, President Trump, you deport all illegal alien prisoners to compensate. That's an issue that I've talked about not only in Trump's War, but in other books I have written. You begin by deporting illegal alien prisoners. You get rid of them. Now, how many people are in our prisons? This is a very important conversation that we're about to have on the Savage Nation. I know many of you depend upon me for ideas, and sometimes I joke around, but most of the time I try to back up my ideas with facts. So here's some facts. How many people are in prisons in the United States of America? Per capita, higher than any nation in the world. We have 2.3 million people in 1,719 state prisons, 102 federal prisons, 901 juvie correctional facilities, 3,163 local jails, 76 Indian County jails, and in addition to that, you have military prisons, immigration detention facilities, civil commitment centers, and prisons in the U.S. territories. But roughly, there are 2.3 million people in all of these prisons. How many of them are illegal aliens? We don't know. Do you know why? This is a shocker that no one's ever told you before. But here on the Savage Nation, we try to give you the most important facts that we can find. 2.3 million in prisons. How many of them are in state prisons where there's no cooperation with federal authorities? Of the 2.3 million in jails or prisons around the country, 1.3 million, an astonishing amount, are in state prisons. And here's the rub. Here's the rub. The state prisons will not cooperate with the federal government and give up their immigration status. And so therefore the Department of Justice and DHS cannot collect data regarding the immigration status of convicted aliens incarcerated in state prisons and local detention centers throughout the United States. And neither the Department of Justice nor DHS can independently collect this data without the assistance of the state prisons. So I would say to Schumer, since you love illegal aliens so much, we're going to do a deal with you, Chuck. We're going to deport all illegal aliens in all prisons throughout the United States. The last I checked, between 25 and 30% of all prisoners are illegal aliens, meaning they're not citizens. Not citizens. So if the number is roughly 2.3 million people, take approximately, make it 25%. Go on the low side. What's 25% of 2 million people? 500,000. Is that right? 501, 1520, right? So make it a little higher. Maybe 600,000 of all the prisoners are illegal aliens. They're not citizens, and I'm sick and tired of spending $30,000 to $60,000 a year on them. With ethnic meals, with counseling, with translators, with medical care that's through the roof. 30% of 2.3 million, or 25% of 2.3 million, Mr. Trump, would be 600,000 or so prisoners who can be immediately deported from the United States of America. And oddly, the number of 600,000 to 700,000 illegal aliens in prisons is very close to the estimated 800,000 DACA students, if you want to call them that. So if you're going to keep the 800,000, then you get rid of the 700,000, and we cut a deal on that. Tell Schumer that's the deal. Tell Pelosi that's the deal, and make them explain to American people why they're in love with illegal alien prisoners. Make that liar from Pacific Heights tell America not how wonderful they are, but that they're all criminals and she loves them. Why does she love them? Have you figured out why she loves them? Have you figured out why Schumer and the Democrats won't let go of the illegal aliens in prison? Well, let's do the math. Let's go to the DACA. How much is each DACA kid worth to HHS? Maybe $100,000 a year or more? So let's do $100,000 per DACA kid times 800,000. What does that turn out to be annually? Do the math. Do the math. 100,000 times 800,000 is how much? You can figure that out. Now you know why Schumer and Pelosi won't let go of him. Are you kidding me? You think it's about compassion? It was always about the money. It's always the money. It's always followed the money. The entire Democrat machine is supported by the illegal alien situation. DACA. DACA, DACA, DACA. If you go to my website, michaelsavage.com, maybe you don't want to hear any of this. It's too much for you. It's not too much for me. We have a whole thing on this DACA thing that I want you to see. I know I'm liable to wake up tomorrow and hear Pelosi give a speech, not only about DACA, but that sex dolls should be able to vote in elections in San Francisco. We don't mean any sex doll in a factory, but any sex doll that's in a serious relationship with anyone will be given the right to vote in San Francisco in the next election because it's the humane thing to do, because that's who we are as a people in San Francisco. You can only make so many jokes about a thing that's not funny. Mark Short, former leader of Koch Never Trump effort, now pushing DACA amnesty as White House staffer. You didn't know this, but Trump made Mark Short director of legislative affairs. And during a Christian Science Monitor breakfast in Washington, D.C., he wanted amnesty for nearly 800,000 illegal aliens given temporary protected status. And regarding the hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens shielded by the DACA program, which Trump said he will officially end, this guy, Short, Mark Short, who works for the Koch brothers, so-called conservatives, hinted that the administration will accept a clean amnesty bill from Congress that would not only legalize DACA recipients, but also create a surge at the U.S.-Mexico border and a surge in illegal immigration into the United States, a surge in legal immigration to the U.S. That's what they want. They all want it. The big money is on DACA. The big money is on immigration. If you want to see how crazy our country is becoming, where you can't even find out who's a conservative anymore and who's a liberal anymore, well, here's another one. Chelsea Manning, remember the traitor, sex changer, named fellow at Harvard University. Chelsea Manning, the so-called transgender U.S. Army soldier who should have been shot for what he did, but he was given amnesty by Barack Obama in the last minutes of his administration. He served 7 years in prison for leaking classified data. He's been named a visiting fellow at Harvard University. And here's what Harvard had to say about this traitor. Broadening the range and depth of opportunity for students to hear from and engage with experts, leaders, and policy shapers is a cornerstone of the Institute of Politics, said Harvard University. Of course, the Harvard Kennedy School, right? We welcome the breadth of thought-provoking viewpoints on race, gender, politics, and the media. Conservatives need not apply. Chelsea Manning should not have been named a fellow at Harvard, but a creepo. They should have a special program at Harvard called Creepo, but they don't have it. This is how debased the country has become. Trump's going left. He's going right. He's doing the Washington, D.C. two-step. And Schumer said something about the two-step. here in 07. He was caught on a hot mic after eating a hot pastrami saying Trump is boxed in 07.
What we said was exactly evident. Here's what I told him. I said, Mr. President, you're much better off if you can sometimes step right and sometimes step left. If you have to step just in one direction, you're boxed. He gets that. Oh, it's going to work out, and it'll make us more productive, too.
Oh, really? Now, when did Obama ever step right? Did Obama ever step right to accommodate anyone on the other side? I don't remember it. Perhaps I'm mistaken. So, in other words, they got him dancing like a trained bear with a chain around his neck. And they're gloating about it. They had a great dinner. And here's Schumer about a Game of Thrones. This is very clever. I wonder who wrote this for him. And I'll refute it in a minute. Here's clip 10, old Schumer.
It's a medieval solution for a modern problem. A Game of Thrones idea for a world that is a lot closer to Star Wars. And the thing is, we have new modern solutions using our best technology.
Oh, yeah, I've heard it before.
We discussed some of them at the White House last night.
Really?
Drones. These drones can spot the difference from a deer or a human being crossing the border.
Can the drone, Senator Schumer, can a drone detect a liar from Brooklyn? I know it's accurate enough to detect the difference between a deer and a human being crossing the border, but can a drone detect a liar from Brooklyn crossing over into flyover country? Because I can. I don't need a drone to detect a liar and a two-faced liar. Well, I can play more of it. Here is Pelosi gloating. And you know the most important thing for you to remember is not only the Dreamer thing that's got us all agitated. It's Pelosi. She was relegated to the trash heap of history. Her own party wanted her gone. There was a movement to throw her out as a spokesmouth because she was so embarrassing to them. Trump just made her very relevant again. And if this keeps up, she's liable to be the next Speaker of the House all over again. And it will be all because of Trump. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? It makes you wonder. I had a caller yesterday who said he fears that Trump was selected by Democrats to shaft the Republican Party and give the Democrats control forever. I said, I don't believe that. But this is shocking. Here is Pelosi in clip 12 gloating about the dinner last night.
Leader Schumer and I had a very productive meeting with President Trump, where we agreed to a plan to work out an agreement to protect our nation's dreamers from deportation.
I hate that
we
word,
insisted
dreamers.
that the Bipartisan Dream Act, the one introduced by Congresswoman Luce Allard, would be the basis for the protection, and that we would review border security measures that do not include building a wall as we go forward.
So, in other words, we're going to get nothing out of the deal. And this creature from Pacific Heights is now dictating immigration policy. This is how sickening this is. It's as though the entire election was nullified. It's as though Trump has permitted the election that we killed ourselves for to be nullified virtually overnight. And you have to ask yourself, why? Well, let me go back again to Trump's war, the war for our borders, page 75 and 76. I say with one's heart, I mean the millions of liberals who support open borders, not the evil-minded politicians like Obama, Merkel, and Clinton who intentionally invade their own countries. While there is at least room for a discussion on how to handle these, quote, dreamers compassionately, the hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants in our prisons or some other form of custody is a no-brainer. They have to go day one, or as close to it as is reasonably possible. And I don't want you to lose my original suggestion, which is such a good one that it will not be implemented, because good ideas, as you all know, are destroyed. But here it is again, in case you just tuned in. Just burnt my hand on a lamp here in the studio. You know, it's unbelievable. Now he's talking about not going to stand for what Iran is doing. Now he's shape-shifting now. He gave an interview aboard Air Force One after a nice meatloaf lunch. And he says he's not going to stand for what Iran is doing. He already moved past DACA already. It's over. Schumer and Pelosi took over that deal. Now he's on to Iran till he backtracks and waffles on that one. Be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. And all. We're talking about the disaster of immigration at the end of the day. Trump's number one issue that he used as a footstool to become president was the issue of immigration, which I am proud to say has been a keystone of my radio program since 1994. Immigration, immigration, immigration. Now, why do so many Americans have an almost obsession with securing our borders? Is it because they're racists or because they love their country and they don't want it turning into a third world hellhole? Is that clear enough for you? Do you actually think that all of these illegal aliens are going to become the next wave of Einsteins? You actually believe that garbage? Do you really believe that? That inside every one of them is another Einstein, another astronaut, another Boeing? Do you actually believe that? I don't. Because we're not getting the educated immigrants. We are not getting the highest level of immigrants. We're getting the lowest level of immigrants. Say, what? Was that the first time in American history? No. But shouldn't we have learned by now that we should be selecting our immigrants rather than being selected by the immigrants? Why do you think so many people around the world want to come here? And why do you think there's so much anti-American hatred in this country right now? Do you think it has nothing to do with all of the non-citizens who have no relationship to this nation? You think they're not easily manipulated by the white liberal communists who are telling them it's a racist nation? Here are millions of people who have come into this country illegally, living off the fat of the land, not paying any taxes, sending home billions of dollars to their home country, and hating this nation. You think we, the American people, don't know what's going on? So he said, the president said, immigration, immigration, immigration. Then he said, we're going to build that wall, build that wall, build that wall. Build that wall. It's a good tune. Build that wall. Build the wall. Bill's Walrus. That's what I promised you, Bill's Walrus, and that's what you're going to get. I promised you Bill's Walrus, and you're going to get Bill's Walrus. I guarantee it.
Savage.